It's done, it's dead. Stop everything. If you haven't already started, just stop now. Forget everything that I've told you on this channel, forget everything you've seen on YouTube. It's over. I'm really sorry guys, but you need to stop now. Hey, yeah, it's me. I told them it's dead already. Yeah, no, they gave up, they stopped. Yeah, no, they've all stopped watching already. Yep, that's right. All right, let's keep launching products. Sweet. Oh, you're still watching. This is awkward. Okay, so for anyone who didn't just bury their Amazon FBA ambitions, congratulations, most of your competition just quit. But jokes aside, this is a really serious issue for a lot of sellers. If you're not aware, over the last month, Amazon has been quietly, without announcing anything, making some really big changes to reviews. Sellers have had all of their reviews wiped from certain listings, buyer accounts are getting blocked from leaving reviews, ASINs are actually getting blocked from having new reviews added, and seller accounts are being suspended or even banned. So yes, this is a big deal. You may not be aware, but Viral Launch has done some investigating into the scope of the issue, and they've published an article in the last week or so, really using a lot of their data to illustrate just how significant these changes are and just how far-reaching they are as well. So I'm gonna walk you through that article. I'm gonna talk you through the 6 main takeaways that we need to be aware of. I'll give you my own thoughts about what this changes for you if you're thinking about starting with Amazon FBA or if you're already selling. And finally, I'm gonna give you the tactics and the strategies that I recommend, the ones that I'll personally be using now, given that all of this is changing, to keep getting these reviews, to keep being able to launch products and to stay competitive. But first, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below, click that notification bell button, and if anything is not crystal clear to you at the end of this video, just leave me a question, ask me. I wanna make sure that you understand all of this, because again, it's a significant change, and a lot of what you might have seen on YouTube, that maybe is only 6 or 12 months old, is now kind of outdated, and so you need to stay up to date with these things. If anything's not clear, leave me a question, and without further ado, I'm gonna hop into my computer and let's get into it. Okay, so number 1 is the review purge, and how widespread was this? This was 2.1 million reviews. That's a huge amount. And the top categories were cell phones and health and household. Now, you can see some specific listings that Viral Launch has found that showed just how widespread this issue was. This A Tech City digital scale, it had nearly 14,000 reviews wiped off it. Holy shit. So the top 5 categories, we're looking at between 17 to 20% of listings being affected. So these numbers are basically just showing us like how big this issue is, and the scale of what Amazon is doing. I personally haven't had any listings affected, at least not yet, but that's because I haven't really been competing with reviews all of that much. So most of my products are in quite low competition niches, and in those niches, it's not that important, which means that people aren't incentivized to really double down with like black hat stuff and really get into these problems that are now getting wiped. But in general, you can see, again, 2.1 million reviews is a massive amount, and that's just in 1 month. So this is an ongoing thing as well. So the second key point is that the reviews have been blocked on particular ASINs. And I think this is kind of crazy, but they've actually put a hard static limit, at least for now, on the maximum amount of reviews that a listing can generate per day. So what happens is, verified and unverified reviews are treated separately. Basically, if you get more than 3 unverified reviews, so that's anybody, they don't have to buy the product or they buy it at a discount, but basically anybody can leave an unverified review. But if that happens more than 3 times per day, if that trigger gets exceeded, then what will happen is the listing will be blocked from receiving additional reviews for a period of 7 days. That's for unverified reviews. Now for verified reviews, which is when people buy your product at full price, that limit is 6 to 8 per day. And what happens is when either of those limits get hit, that 7-day block will apply. And during that time, the seller account and the ASIN are gonna get audited. And basically Amazon is gonna look at the listing, look at the reviews, look at the account, and see if there's anything suspicious going on. If there is something suspicious going on, that account or that listing will get suspended. If there's nothing, then it gets lifted, and then you can continue to get reviews on that listing. This is a key point to me because I think a static limit is really crazy. It doesn't make any sense. It should be like a percentage, or it should be relative to other competitors in that niche. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of really popular products will be getting naturally, completely genuinely, more than 8 verified reviews per day. If you have a natural review rate of 3% and you're selling more than a few hundred units per day, which obviously is a lot, but there are products that sell that many, then you're gonna reach and exceed that limit. So to me, that doesn't make sense. Also, I think this shows as well that Amazon is putting these things into place, but they aren't necessarily fixed. So Amazon will change things as they go, and they often won't really announce what those changes are. But at this stage, that's what those limits are. Be aware of them, because essentially if you're launching your product the way that we've done it previously, and most people have done it, is that you get this like spike of reviews as you use either it's like Facebook groups or friends and family, all of those things. They're a concentrated spike of reviews that you're going to get in a short period of time. And so it is using those old methods, which now are not recommended. It's quite reasonable that you'd hit that limit, have your account suspended or reviewed, and not be able to have any more reviews added to your product. So that's something that we need to be aware of. The third thing is having reviews split by variation. So basically, before this change has started to be put in place, reviews on Amazon have been aggregated by variation. That means that if you have a listing or 3 listings that are variations of each other, so maybe a size variation, and listing A has 10 reviews, listing B has 5 reviews, and listing C has 5 reviews as well, they will all be summed up so that each listing actually looks like it has 20 reviews, not 10, 5, and 5. Now, supposedly these are being split, and that's changing, so it will show up as 10, it will show up as 5, and it will show up as 5. I personally think this sucks because I have a lot of variations in my products. I do expect that will affect the conversion rate for some of those less popular variations that at the moment, variation C doesn't have many reviews, but it's sort of hidden by the whole listing. So I'm not happy about that change, but I haven't seen it happen to any of my listings yet. So I can't confirm this or verify whether it's actually going to have an impact. Change number 4 is seller feedback, and that's moving from a complete historical record to a 12-month rolling average. Now this, if you're selling private label or you're thinking about selling private label, I don't think this is a really big change. This mainly affects online arbitrage and wholesalers, because when you're selling the same listing as somebody else, that's when your seller feedback comes into play as a metric that Amazon uses to determine whether you have the buy box or not. However, for private label, we should generally be the only ones selling our listing, and so that metric doesn't really play into effect. So I actually think, as an observer to this, I think it actually is a good change because it evens up the playing field. So if you're a new wholesaler who's just been selling for 12 months versus somebody who's been selling for 5 years, but maybe that 5-year-old seller in the last 12 months, their performance has been slipping. And so they shouldn't really have that advantage from 4 years ago, in my opinion. Again though, not really an issue if you're selling private label. Number 5 is a reviewer purge. So Amazon hasn't just been looking at the ASIN listings themselves, but they've also been looking at the reviewers, at the people leaving the reviews. And when they notice suspicious patterns in those reviewers and in that behavior, they're also banning or suspending those buyer accounts. So this is another reason why you need to avoid doing anything at the moment with Facebook groups, things like that, where these concentrations of buyers are congregating, because those buyers, they're essentially tainted with this suspicious behavior. And so they've already been recorded by Amazon. And therefore, if you go into those Facebook groups, I mean, personally, I think they're probably being monitored by Amazon themselves. But not only that, but those people who are using those accounts, so using those groups, they're on record essentially for doing this stuff that's suspicious and it's being deleted and banned. So they're more likely to transfer that suspicion onto your own listing if they leave a review on it. So number 6 is account suspensions and bans, and obviously this is like the mother of all of the effects. So I've never had my Amazon seller account suspended for doing anything wrong. I have had it suspended for a day or two while changing like bank details over, but it is one of my biggest fears, getting it suspended or banned for a longer period of time. I think it's one of the biggest business risks if you are selling on Amazon. And in this case, I think it's justified to have that fear, because as we can see, what they're doing now with this whole review purge is they're actually suspending accounts for review manipulation. So if your listing gets triggered, as we talked about before, that 7-day trigger and suspension, or for review rather, and if they identify that you've done something wrong, then you will get an account suspension. And that means that not just that listing, but your entire account, everything, all of your sales grind to a halt. So you're not making any money during that period of time. And those suspensions, they look like they're lasting at least 21 days as a minimum. That's a real killer. That means no income, no profits, and it really affects your cash flow. So what's worse is that if after you've been suspended, if you get reinstated, which you can do after this minimum 21-day period, but then you get caught again for doing the same thing, what Amazon is doing right now is permanent bans, essentially. So if you do it once, suspended, and then if they catch you again, you're banned. That's a permanent ban. There's no coming back from that. Okay guys, so yes, big deal. Now, next step, how do we move forwards? How do we take this as an opportunity to do things better, so that when everybody else is now giving up, or they're thinking it's too hard to get started, and they're basically just, like forgetting about the whole business model, which is great because this is going to open up the playing field and there are actually going to be less people competing, which is what you and I want. How do we then work out how to move forward so that we don't get caught up in all of these issues? So I think first of all, it almost goes without saying, but I need to stress this, is avoid Facebook review groups, things like the review traders or review clubs, PayPal reviews, that sort of thing. If you're going to do something like that, you need to be incredibly careful, and just blasting your product out onto these Facebook groups, trying to get 50 or 100 views, something like that. Again, the reasons that we've discussed before. So firstly, I think Amazon or people connected with Amazon are probably in those groups, because if you can get in easily, so can they. And secondly, the existing buyers within those groups who will be the ones leaving those reviews, they are also getting their accounts banned and suspended. They are also being targeted by Amazon. And so if they are the ones leaving reviews on your own product, that suspicion and that tainted behavior is also going to transfer over to your listing, and you're more likely to have your own account or your own listing put under review, suspended, or banned. So again, I'd be very cautious with those methods now, knowing that those risks are elevated, and given all the problems we've talked about. Unless you're going to do it in very limited quantities, you're going to be very cautious about it. I just don't think it's worth that risk, and I don't think it's a viable strategy to rely on to be able to launch a new product. So the next thing that this affects is product research criteria. So if you're looking for new products to sell on Amazon, what should you do differently? I think until this all settles down and until some really clear strategies emerge, I think we need to consider a lot more products and niches as just off limits due to high review counts. If something's got hundreds of reviews, all the top competitors, I wouldn't be looking at that anymore, because there's no really fast, reliable way of catching up to them, and review count does matter. One more speculative rumor that I have heard is that Amazon could be moving product reviews to a 12-month rolling average, just like it has with seller feedback. So that would actually open up these niches and these products again, because the most that you could be behind as a new seller would be 12 months, versus now, in most cases, a lot of these more competitive products and niches, the top sellers have 3 to 5 years worth of reviews built up. So you just can't compete with that. If they did make this change, then I would recommend that we start looking at a lot of things again. However, until we see that change happening, or at least being announced, we can't count on it. So until then, I would be looking at niches that have at least a few sellers up there with a very low review count, maybe less than 50, who are making sales successfully, because we know that if they can do it, we can probably do it too. And the question of how low that review count should be really depends on the sales volume and a couple of other factors. To do some quick estimations, you can calculate how long it will take you to catch up in reviews. For example, if you think you need around 50 reviews to compete in a specific niche, and using an email follow-up sequence, you can get a 3% review conversion rate, let's say, then you know that to get the 50 reviews, you're going to need 50 divided by 3%, which is 1,666 units. If you're selling 30 units per day, then 1,666 divided by 30 is 55 days. So it will take you 55 days to generate 50 reviews. Next thing that's going to become more important is off Amazon follow-up. So that's generally either going to be insert cards, so things that you include with your product, so that when the product reaches the customer, they open the product and they actually see a little note or something in some way, shape or form, encouraging them to leave an honest review. And what you need to be careful of is that you're doing this within Amazon's terms of services, so you can't be offering, again, incentivized reviews. However, you can do this legitimately by asking for an honest review. The other option would be to use email lists and to build up a following off Amazon on the internet. So you can use Facebook ads, you can use Instagram, and there are various other ways of doing this. So the next one is an email feedback service, and this is fundamental, and it always has been, it still is now. That's basically sending out a sequence of either 1, 2, or 3 emails to every customer who orders your product on Amazon. And in those emails, you can either, just offer a friendly message, make yourself a little bit more personable so they know who is selling the product, what the business is about. And somewhere within there, you want to somehow get them to think about leaving a review. And that will increase your review rate. Now, if you don't use an email feedback service, you'll get around about a 1% review rate. So that's like 100 orders, you'll get 1 review using an email feedback service. And again, I use ZONMASTER, which is a really good one. I've included a link below, which is an affiliate link. So if you do click through and you do purchase, I'll get a little bit of commission as well. So I appreciate that if you want to support the channel. But it is a good email feedback service. There are others out there. Using any of those services, you should be able to increase that rate up by about 100 to 200%. Other than that, the fundamentals apply. Build a real brand. Have good products that people actually like. When people like your product, they will want to leave you a review no matter what. And then sell more units. So that could mean reducing your price for longer, maybe running at break even when you're launching your product. Basically building up sales velocity for a longer period of time, because more sales means more reviews. And finally, always count on Amazon changing the game. So the last time that there was a major change like this with reviews was in October 2016, and that was when Amazon banned incentivized reviews. Before this, you could do a giveaway of 100 units and get back 80 reviews. It was a crazy number, and it meant that everybody had these really high review counts. It was a cakewalk to launch your product. And also all of those reviews were 5 stars as well, so everything looked great. And when Amazon removed that ability, this really messed with my shit, because I was in the process of launching my first products. Literally, I think a week before my product arrived in Amazon, they said, no, you can't do that anymore. And I had my product launch strategy all planned out, everything. And so they announced the ban, and suddenly I had no idea what to do. I thought, maybe this is all over, like I'm not gonna be able to launch this product. That's it, I'm done. But in the end, it wasn't as huge a deal as everybody made it out to be. If something like this happens, as it does, you adjust, you find new ways of doing things, and you just keep moving forwards. That's the important thing, is to keep moving. If you do that, it ends up being a good thing, because everybody else, so those are the people who don't want to do the hard work, don't want to have to think for themselves, and basically just want to follow that easy straight path all the way to the end, those people drop out. And when they give up and fall off the horse, that's when the field is left wide open for entrepreneurs like you and I. So with all of these changes, what does that mean for my business? Well, the main thing that I'm going to be doing differently is focusing more on off-Amazon follow-up. So I'll be reintroducing insert cards into all of my products. I'm also going to be experimenting heavily with Facebook ads and Instagram as well to build up an email list and a list of customers that I can approach outside of Amazon and ask for reviews directly. Now I know I still have to keep it within those limits, those daily limits, but at least that way I have a lot more control over how I can contact them and how I can get those reviews. So I'll be sure to post the results of those experiments and everything that I learned on this channel. So if you're interested in learning the best strategies, the best way to launch products and get reviews in the second half of 2018, going into 2019, basically the best way to do things today with all of these changes that are happening, then make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do click that notification bell button. And if you have any questions or anything wasn't clear, leave me a question down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. The next video is coming up right now, so don't go anywhere, and I'll see you there.